Hmm. A certain big red character could really use a great adaptation for a movie. Hmm. He's had a couple already, but he hasn't had a very faithful, great one yet. Hmm. 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 Obviously, I'm talking about Hellboy. As you can see, this cool Hellboy, more comic book inspired right hand of doom that I made out of cardboard. It is not three dimensional. It is 2D. It's basically like one of those like ones you get out of a baseball game, the finger pointer ones, but Hellboy edition. But it still looks cool. Yeah. Hellboy's had three live action adaptations? Question mark? Yes, I think so. He's had the what's his name? Michael Nola Mike No, that's the dude, that's the freaking comic book artist. You stupid? Um I don't remember his name. The guy who played Hellboy in the first live action movies. Those movies are good nostalgically. Obviously, if you're a fan of Hellboy, you would probably know that those movies influenced were most likely influenced by the success of Men in Black, because Hellboy is not a it's not the spirit of Hellboy in terms of the franchise. I would not describe it as an underground organization of alien monster hunters who dress up in black suits and are like hidden. That sounds oddly specific. I'm just trying to say it's not really. It's not Men in Black. All right, it shouldn't be that close. Hellboy is basically a monster. It's more the spirit of a monster hunter who would go into explore weird places and hunt monsters. In that spirit of that, in that vein of what type of movies it should be, and it could really work. I think if you just had a movie, it could be like a new story, um, where like you could have like Hellboy go to. This is gonna sound pretty typical, but Hellboy go to like a castle, a dark castle, and fight this big scary monster, and save like a village of people around the castle. That would be a typical story that you would find that suits Hellboy. Um, but instead we got like the a Men in Black esque covered of Hellboy. But at least Hellboy looked good in those movies. They're nostalgic. They do some things right. Yeah, they're pretty good. But it's the overall like Men in Black rization of it that didn't sound right. The there's a proper word I gotta think of. I am doing a bit because I would think it probably looks funny with me trying to do like a thinking, touching my head. I don't need to actually find a word, but Hellboy should be pretty simple to do, and we've had three attempts. The first two were pretty off, and the third one was maybe the third one was pretty accurate to a story. I forgot what it's called. I think it's I don't remember, but I did when I heard that movie was coming out, I did read that comic just for that, and it was such a good comic that I was like, this is amazing, and I can't wait for this movie to come out. And then when it came straight to like digital or whatever, um, my mom bought it so we could watch it. She's also a Hellboy fan, but she's more so a fan of like the early like the 2000s version. So she doesn't really know the comic character of Hellboy and isn't used to the way he should look. And I know that movie she's like complaining about how the guy looked a little, whoever they got for like the newest interpretation, looked a little small. And I was trying to explain to her that though Hellboy is like a big guy, he's not necessarily overly muscular, and that his arms are kind of thin, and that his shoulders are very narrow, because it's a visual, like, show don't tell. It's showing that he holds the weight of the world on his right hand, so that, and it like visually shows with his shoulders being so hunkered down. And I don't think she got that. The one thing I didn't like about the way he looked in that movie overall, like his right hand of doom, I remember seeing the first images and the trailers. I took screenshots on my phone and zoomed in to look at it. It looks very paper mache. And this isn't a very relevant thing to talk about. And I don't know if anyone really keeps that in their brain of what it looked like, but it was very paper mache. Didn't look like a right hand of doom. It looked very fake, and it was very lumpy. Alright. Overall, he looked okay though. I mean, he looked like Hellboy. I mean, I think Ron Perlman, that's his name from the first one. I think it came to me. His Hellboy looks perfect. I think he's got the squareness of it, and I think it looks okay. That he looks. It's fine that he's really muscular, because Hellboy's still muscular. Like, his chest is huge, but his arms are like more frail. And to ask an actor to get the Hellboy physique, you'd be ruining their physique for a good period of their time. You'd be like, hey, don't train your arms, make them really frail, but like only train back and your chest. Only train those and your abs. Nothing else. Keep those as small as possible. That would ruin their physique for a bit. So they can't do that. And Ron Perlman is left-handed, so that worked out beautifully. His right hand of doom looks amazing. The middle child, we don't like to talk about him. That's the guy from Stranger Things. His right hand of doom is like interesting. It's very blocky. They do some stuff. They had like the witch lady, like where it's like, give me your eye and I'll do this or whatever. I remember that being from the comics, because I watched a bunch of videos on Hellboy because I am interested in the character, though I do not have the money or do not want to go buy comics, and I also don't like to read, so I rather watch videos of people reading the comics for me. Think of it as like a comic book audio book. You know, that's probably a thing. You could do that. That's what those YouTube channels are for. People who don't want to actually read. And later in the Hellboy story, he does make that like deal with the old witch, like where he gives his eye up, and he's like, I think he gets his eye back somehow later on, but that was pretty late on in the story. And I watched a whole video about why Hellboy is like one of the greatest comic book characters of all time, because they actually allow his character to end and let his story end. And I think that watching that video and I did that a long time ago, whenever it came out, and that is very true. Since Hellboy's story actually ends in the comics, it's very beautiful. In a way, there's closure to it. While you have other characters, like a certain webhead who has been around since the 60s and is still perpetually like in his early 20s, and writers won't let him grow or have the love of his life. Off subject. Actually, no, I won't talk about it. I might save it for another video. It's like an idea of mine for what they could, a little storyline that they could do to fix the whole MJ thing. And like, I'll hint at it. It deals with killing off a certain aunt. So that's it. Hellboy, he's cool. His movies are don't really adapt the comics very well, but when they did, it didn't have very high budget, and it wasn't very done good, but it was okay. And isn't the bad guy in the third one, who's from the comics, isn't he like the man with the crick in the neck or something? The man with the crooked neck. Crooked neck? can't remember, and I'm not doing any research for any video ever. I might Google something, but I'm not doing that. So, that's it. Hellboy is good and deserves better. That's the peace.